Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Conversations with Doc Lu and Friends. This is part of the Mind Care podcast, and this is our third episode where we do a live stream once a month to share with you points, knowledge, and information about key topics that affect mental health. So it's our chance to also share with you not just information, but also reach out to you so you can get in touch with us live through the chat and then ask your questions of our topic experts. We have a very exciting episode today. We're going to talk about the tweens, who are the 9 to 12 years old, and the teens, the 13 to 19-year olds. And this afternoon, we are very lucky to have with us Dr. Rhea Concepcion, who I'd like to welcome. Rhea.
Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Lou
Hi. Yeah,
Caribbean.
so Rhea
No,
is
it's good evening to you and good
good
afternoon here in the
evening.
Philippines.
Yes, oo nga.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
oh, it's our pleasure. In fact, I know how busy you are. You've been all over the place. For everyone who's watching us and listening to this podcast, Dr. Rhea Concepcion is someone I knew from way, way back. I think she was still in residency training at the UPPGH then. And I have been fortunate enough to actually watch Rhea bloom in the profession of psychiatry. She's now the president of the Philippine Society for Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. She was past president of the Philippine Psychiatric Association. She has a very active practice as a consultant at the Lung Center, Heart Center, and also in Angeles. And currently, I'm very, very happy to also welcome Rhea into the fold of Mind Care Club, where she is our child and adolescent psychiatrist. So she's available for consultations with Mind Care Club. So Rhea,
Yes, thank you for
kamusta?
that introduction, Dr. Lou. Dr. Lou,
Oh,
of
di
course,
ba?
is one of my most respected and favorite mentors back in residency and up to now.
Thank you very much. So, mutual admiration club kami ni Rhea. We have very deep respect and regard for each other. And Rhea is also someone who I think is a very good example of what I would call soulful living. She has a knack for the creative and the arts. She sings well. 'Di ba, Rhea?
Ah,
Oo,
well,
magaling siyang
just a
kumanta.
hobby, ma'am. Not really.
Okay, so our conversation this afternoon is about the tweens and the teens.
Mhm.
And we'd like to focus on this issue because this is a stage in human development, di ba? Which I think is being hit by a lot of paradoxes now that we are in this pandemic. Kasi ito yung stage, di ba, na it is necessary for their human development to actually
Mhm.
socialize, to start moving away from family in terms of their psychological development and individuation, to meet friends and
Yes,
then
that's right.
socialize outside the home. Pero they're met by this pandemic, they're challenged by the social and physical
Mhm.
distancing and isolation that's required. So in your practice, Rhea, kamusta ang mga kabataan?
Yes. So, first of all, let me start by saying that the pandemic came to all of us without any warning.
That's
I
true.
don't think anybody in this world was ready for the pandemic, and that it has changed the way we live our lives,
Mm,
both for the young and the adults. And
mm,
because of the social restrictions and the many restrictions that we are experiencing now, so we would like to touch on how this has affected or how this can affect the the development of children of
mm,
the children up and the teenagers. So I'd like to say that the social isolation and the lack of access that children are experiencing right now, especially lack of access to the classroom settings and the face-to-face instruction by teachers, can affect children's mental health. And it is important to know also that creating social relationships is very central is to the human well-being,
mm,
and
mm,
it's not just due to the to the joy of being with friends or when learning the social norms, but experiencing social behavior and engaging in social reaction is very vital during the childhood development. And
Oo nga eh.
oo. So we can say that the absence of social relationships and behaviors are shown to affect the children's development in various ways. And studies have shown that already, that showing that socially isolated children tend to have lower subsequent educational attainment, you know,
Hmm.
and
Mm.
also like a long-term social isolation is also shown to be closely related to loneliness and
Mm.
physiological illnesses in children, and it may also
Mm.
affect the healthy development of the brain, and
Mm.
it may also lead to children's underachievement.
So, ang dami
Mm,
talagang effects ng social isolation sa mga bata, 'no? I think it
mm,
affects everyone, but more so, I think the crucial stage of brain development that occurs at this stage. So, imaginin mo, 2 taon na, 'no? 2 years nang
mm,
tumatakbo itong pandemya na 'to. And so, the children who were 9 years old, for
mm,
example, during the time that it started, will already be 11 by now. And those who were
mm,
11 will now be teenagers, 13 years old. So
mm,
they've been taken out of the classroom and they're trying to learn things from home. And you were talking about how the social isolation actually affects their development. Na
mm,
minsan yung mga socially isolated na mga bata, nakikita natin na ang relationship niyan ay mas mababang performance sa
mm.
school, tapos
Underachievement in
loneliness,
school.
oo.
Because of many other factors that are pandemic related, no, hindi
Mm,
lang ito yung nagkaroon ng drastic change in the way learning is delivered right now. We
mm,
all
mm.
shifted to online learning, and
Yeah.
also because of the loss of jobs of our parents and the
Mhm.
economic difficulties right now. So isa rin sa mga factors is the inequality in the access to critical resources for learning that these children face. Like like
Are you
like
talking about
oh,
gadgets and
of
Wi-Fi,
course.
gano'n?
Yes, since we are children or students are very much immersed into their online lives right now, but not
Mm,
all have
mhm.
the capacity or access to good connection. There are a lot of
Yeah.
connectivity issues. And so, hindi nagkakaroon ng equal opportunity for learning. So
Mhm.
merong mga population ng mga students, ng mga bata na napag-iiwanan, and meron namang nakakahabol, nakaka-sustain, no? So
Yeah.
so imagine the effect cognitively and sa academic development ng mga batang napag-iiwanan. So
Mm.
that's one of the factors. And also because of the restrictions, parents are also not able to bring children for mga well care um, consultations, yung mga
Yung mga usual
um,
check-up nila.
usual checkups, and
Mm.
especially even those who have existing mental health conditions. So hindi
Mm.
rin na, because learning is also affected, is compromised when mental health is affected. That's also
That's
one
right.
thing. Mm-mm,
Oo. Eh, alam naman ng marami na mental health is so crucial to overall health, 'di ba?
mm-hmm,
Kasi kung hindi tayo mentally well, lalo na sinasabi natin nasabi mo kanina, Rhea, na yung maraming mga bata nakakaramdam ng loneliness.
mm-hmm,
Tapos because they are socially isolated, they're not physically going to school, may assumption na nami-make up yon ng online learning. But at the same time, you mentioned na hindi lahat merong ganong opportunity for online learning. So, ano ang nangyayari sa mga kabataan ngayon? So, pag-usapan muna natin yung mga 9 to 12 years old. How different is their development at this point in time?
mm-mm. We have yet to see what will happen to these children because we are
Mm.
almost pa 2 years pa lang sa
Oo.
sa into this pandemic, no?
Mhm.
And so ang sinasabi, or some studies that, or literature that we are reading about it, is that yung lack of opportunity to play and lack of interaction nila,
Mhm.
social play and
Mm.
interaction to students and even to teachers, may cause a some kind of parang compromise or in their development emotionally and
Yeah.
psychologically.
Mhm.
Relationships are missed, no? Hindi na maintain ang tamang relationships. But um, because we have to adapt to the changes, we have to be relevant to at this time sa mga changes na nangyayari. And so, um, yung use of yung social communication, what you call virtual communication, na hindi pa rin naman
Mhm.
dapat mawala, because um, it's better that they be connected to friends and people than not having to connect at all. So,
Yu Yun yung isa sa mga
mm,
questions na finield earlier 'no, nung bago tayo nag-live. May mga grupo ng parents na nagtatanong, how can they help their children cope? 'Di ba, na, hindi nga makalabas ng bahay, and the guilt that they are feeling when 'pag hindi nila pinapayagang lumabas, pero nagi-guilty din sila kung papayagan nila baka kung anong
mm,
mangyari. So, yung balancing act na yun ng mga magulang. So, ang tanong ay, how can they help their children cope, number one, and then how can they also deal with that ambivalence?
mm. Okay, first of all, dun sa issue of being, should they feel guilty na hindi nila palalabasin or
Mm,
hindi.
mm,
You know, the
mm.
Philippine Society for Child and Adolescent Psychiatry is closely working and coordinating also with our pediatricians, the Philippine Pediatric
Yes,
Society. Because, yeah, that
yes.
is right. Balance is key with what is happening right now. Yes, we are gusto natin yung mental health ng mga bata ay wag mag-suffer, no, because of the effects
Mm,
of the pandemic. But at the same time, we are also um, concerned about the medical health of these children. So,
yeah.
like at this point in time right now in the Philippines, the vaccination for the pediatric group has just started, and not all children have been vaccinated. So, the hazard is still there. So,
Mm,
at kung meron namang order na from the government, let us say, na pinapayagan ng makalabas ang mga bata, but still, um, it it's up to the judgment, no, critical judgment of the parents kung dapat ba nilang ilabas or hindi, at kung
mm,
ilalabas man nila, make sure na yung lugar na pupuntahan nila is safe, um, na hindi magkakaroon ng infection ang mga bata. Because remember, ang mga bata hindi naman lalabas mag-isa sa kanilang bahay.
yes.
Ang mga bata paglalabas kasama ang mga adults or guardians, and imagine the number of people going out already pagsasamahan mo ang bata. So, yung transmission of the disease or infection ay talagang hindi mahirap makontrol kung gano'n.
Mm,
So, the parents have to be judicious on that. Now,
okey.
since we are all forced to stay in at home, tayong lahat, because of protecting ourselves from the infection, ano yung mga bagay na pwede nating gawin naman sa bahay? So, well, for some families, ang pandemic ay naging opportunity na gamitin itong panahon na ito para bonding time for the
Mhm,
family,
mhm,
catch up with their children, catch up with one another. And there are, since, yeah, we are all immersed into our online lives right now, both children and adults, we can still do mga off-screen activities. We can still offer mga off-screen activities.
Anong
Uh,
example ng off-screen activities na
yeah.
puwede nating i-share sa parents na
Mm-hmm.
nanonood
Mm-mm.
bago natin puntahan yung teachers?
Okay. Off-screen activities, una, important that we give digital recess or digital quarantine. no, hindi all the time na nakaupo tayo sa in front of the screen. There
Mm-hmm.
are creative activities that we can do as a family. We can do projects as a family, and yun, no? And we can also set some prayer time for the family, so that
Mm-hmm.
yung worship time natin, kaya pa rin na nating magawa uh, during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, yeah, cooking together or making
Cooking
art
together.
together, yeah,
Uh-uh.
or try to make it as normal as possible. Kung meron noong mga storytelling times with the children, then still continue with it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
gusto ko ring i-emphasize dito, we have what we call the 888 schedule. We have 24 hours in a day. And
Mm-hmm.
we recommend that the 8 hours of the day be spent, let us say, at work and in school. Um,
Okay.
8 hours is for sleep, and 8 hours is for our personal time. So, balance, and it's the parents' responsibility na matulungan ng mga bata na makagawa ng balanced schedule in their lives para to
Mm.
maintain good well-being and mental health.
Okay. Pero for example, yung mga teenagers, ano na yan mga gumigimik na on their own, 'di ba? Lalo na 'pag pumasok na ng mga 16, 17, 18. Siyempre may barkada, may kailangang umalis with friends. Paano gagabayan ng mga magulang yung papaano magagawa ng desisyon about, is it safe for my teenager to go out at this time?
Mm-mm. Well, the parents should still explain to these children and our teenagers, um, yung hazards that are still outside, and it's not yet that very ano to, safe to go out, and still encourage um, mga off-screen activities together with the family.
Mm.
Sometimes yeah, the teenagers would like to really go out with friends, but hindi pa nga dapat. So we still encourage to stay socially connected through connecting with, yeah, using the social media to
Mhm.
connect with friends and families. Hindi naman all the time ang use of our gadgets and social media ay masama. Dati, noon,
Mhm.
before pre-pandemic, we want what we want is for children, yeah, and people to limit the use of gadgets and the internet. Pero now,
Oo.
hindi natin magawa yun because we are all dependent on it. But it's a
Mhm.
matter of what is your purpose in using it. It's not how long you
Mhm.
use or you spend time on screen, but the purpose
Mhm.
why you use it. So if you use it sa tamang paraan, like right now for school and for connecting, maintaining social connection, then that would be
Mm.
good.
Okay. Pero, I think ang concern ng madami, especially kapagka teenagers ang mga anak, is it possible, isa bang technique o strategy yung identifying an extension of your bubble or your circle? Kunwari, oh, ito yung pamilya natin, pwede nating extend yan to cousins, or merong regular set of friends na nakikita, tapos sila-sila ang nagkikita in open spaces. Is that something that can be recommended at this time given the pandemic situation in the Philippines?
Yes, yes, that can be done, Dr. Lu.
Okay.
Especially in our culture na tayo lahat ay um, nasa kultura ng mga Pilipino na sanay tayo na magkita-kita at
Oo, lalo
mag-gather,
na
no?
magpapasko.
Mag, mm-mm. So just make sure,
Okay.
yeah, why not? But just make sure we all observe safety protocols. Um,
Okay. Which
but yeah,
includes wearing a mask and
wearing masks, face
distancing
shields,
yourselves,
yeah,
face shields.
yeah,
Yeah.
applying,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question about, nakita ko lang sa chat na the Philippines is one of very few countries that have not allowed face-to-face schooling. Shouldn't experts weigh in on showing scientific evidence from other countries on the levels of risk for children to go back to school?
Mm-hmm.
What makes our situation so different from the rest of the world that we have to shut down our schools?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now the Philippines is not yet ready. We are attempting, 'di ba, slowly to open the schools face to face, but
Mm,
right now
mm,
hindi pa ready ang Philippines. And I feel um una, it's children are not yet fully vaccinated, and pangalawa, the Philippines might be, have feeling pressured na some countries are already opening and we are not yet. But some of the
mm,
studies say in other countries regarding opening of classes in other countries, they would only open classes when they are sure that the cases of the infection is really low in that area. No?
mm.
And that is
Ay,
to the objective is and the concern is to protect both the students and the teachers.
hindi pa ba mandatory ang vaccination for teachers? Hindi pa yata
I
ano?
think kasi yung sa I think sa teachers kasi they are part of the mga nauna na mga group na binigyan na ng vaccination. So I think with
Mm,
the teachers, wala masyado ng problem, but it's the children who we fear might get exposed kung hindi pa vaccinated.
kung hindi pa
So,
vaccinated.
so
Okay, and that's the
slowly,
reason why schools remain closed.
yes. Meron ng ibang schools
Okay.
na nag-open, pilot,
Mm,
no? Ibang schools,
mm,
but I think those schools are not in Metro Manila, but in some other regions or places na low ang case. And
okay.
but still to
So, eh,
fully open it, hindi pa. I think
hindi
the
pa.
Philippines is not yet ready for that.
And we're not ready because the vaccination rate is low. The children are not vaccinated. There still are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cases of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is a lot of aspects of our lives, and the children's lives especially, are parang taking a back step until COVID is appropriately controlled. Is that the situation at the moment?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So madaming
All right.
nakabitin muna,
Mm-mm.
madaming mga delays in the plans natin.
Mm-mm.
Oh, hindi pa yun
Mm.
matuloy-tuloy because of the pandemic. So
Okay.
it's taking a back seat muna at this time.
Okay. And when you were talking earlier about what happens kung yung tinanong kita about the teenagers, no, nagpapaalam, lalabas kasama ng mga kaibigan, and you were saying dapat lang merong instructions about how to keep themselves safe when they go out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that you were emphasizing was that there could be activities within the home to engage the children and the whole family together, like cooking together, having
Praying
games
together,
together,
mm-mm.
praying
Praying
together,
together,
and
doing
then maintaining all the other activities that you did as a family, and
mm-mm.
trying to move and do it as a family unit. So talagang ang laki ng load na bit-bit ng pamilya as a
Mm-hmm.
social unit in the current situation of the Philippines, no? Um, ang ang isa sa mga siguro relevant na puwede ding pag-usapan ngayon, this time naman siguro, talking to addressing the concerns of teachers. I remember when we were planning for this conversation, you mentioned to me the concept of cognitive overload.
Mm-hmm.
'Di ba? So, can
Mm-hmm.
you like, enlighten, the people who are listening to us, uh, today about ano ba
Mm-hmm.
'tong concept of cognitive overload?
Yeah. Yeah, because the schools now migrated to online learning, no? Um,
Mm.
there is actually now a blurring of lines between the school and the home. And
Yes.
there is actually, and if you notice, there's actually no blueprint or template or manual on how to go about online learning. It's
Mm,
innovative, it's something new, and
mm,
in that way, it is all right to feel anxious, and it's like we are navigating without a map. And so, because of
mm,
that, um, and of course, there is no face to face. The teachers, ang nangyayari is the teachers would want to make up sana for the loss of opportunity teaching their children face to face. And so
mm,
what happens is nagkakaroon ng um, overload of homeworks, overload of exams and activities. And because meron tayong tinatawag ngayon na synchronous and asynchronous method of learning, um, some the tendency is sometimes the teachers would give a lot of assignments, give a lot of deadlines, and overwhelming the children's or the students' learning um, and capacity. And so
mm,
many students actually go into anxiety episodes and depressive episodes because of dealing with this cognitive overload. No,
mm,
remember that this is a collective experience. This collective it is a collective experience of uncertainty and stress for all of us, for both for the students, the teachers, and even the parents. The parents have
mm.
actually now become teachers already.
Right.
Yeah. And actually, there are a lot of horror stories making all sorts of mistakes doing online teaching and schooling, and it's been an abnormal year for for students and teachers. Um, so, and we are all, of course, bracing ourselves for more stress in the opening of classes soon. No, so.
Papaano
Mhm,
iiwasan ng cognitive overload? So, ang burden na 'to ay nasa educational system 'no, nasa
mhm,
teachers, nasa curriculum coordinators, mga ganyan. So, paano malalaman o ano ang tips para maiwasan ang cognitive overload? Kasi I think sa mga nanonood o nakikinig sa'tin, I think what Dr. Rhea is actually talking about is from the perspective of the children, 'no? From the perspective of the tweens and the teens. Nagkakaranas sila ng cognitive overload, and clinically, it's being seen as episodes of anxiety or sometimes
mhm,
depression. So, when we talk about cognitive overload here, what we're really saying is it can be a cause of the
mhm,
emotional or mental health problems of this particular group of youngsters. So can you address that a bit in terms of talking to the teachers or the parents, but more so I think for the teachers, how can we look at what we're teaching and how we're teaching so that we can avoid cognitive overload and therefore
mhm,
avoid anxiety and depression in children?
mhm. Yeah, first of all, dapat intindihin din natin yung mental health ng mga bata, and dapat bigyan din natin ng consideration na ma-maintain ng bata yung healthy time management balance sa kanila. So,
Mm-mm.
siguro like one of the things that teachers or the school can do is like avoid giving uh, deadlines sa mga students that would be submitted, let us say at 12 midnight, and then that will disrupt the sleeping pattern of the child, no, of the student. It happens, no, high school.
Merong gano'n?
Merong
9 to
ganon.
12 years old, midnight ang assignment?
Merong or mga, yeah, high school, no, um
Mm,
and then also ang dami nilang deadlines sa pinasasubmit. So siguro for the school and for the teachers, let's be considerate of what our students can only handle physically, mentally, you know,
mm,
para hindi sila na-overwhelm. And siguro make it's healthier if teachers would allow like after 5 o'clock, then beyond 5 o'clock, let's give it as a personal time for our for the children to enjoy with their families,
mm,
have dinner with
mm.
families, and do their bedtime routines. After
Right.
5, to make it
So,
to make
bumabalik yan dun sa
mm,
888 mong tip kanina na to
yes, oo.
achieve balance 888.
Mhm.
Okay.
Kung hindi man possible na ma-achieve yung 888 schedule na yon na
Mm.
to give us balance in time. Of course, pag student ka, mahirap siguro yon because ang dami mga ginagawa. But at least try to have um, six, at least 6 hours of sleep man lang and rest, di ba? Because
Okay.
as neuroscience tells us, sleep is very important. Sleep
Mm.
deprivation can also lead to mga anxieties and depression sa atin o sa mga bata. So,
Mm.
so dapat mabigay pa rin 'yon. Yung daily routine nila sana and a sense of control and a sense of normalcy that we do at home, yung sense of predictability nga sa mga bata is one way to lessen their anxieties. If we give structure
Mm.
in the things that we do, both in school and at home,
Mm.
that will help children lessen their anxieties. No, yung sense of control and predictability
Mm.
is will be helpful for the family, for the whole family and the children.
Yeah. Parang sa'kin talaga naiisip ko diyan is nap we really have to reflect on the paradox of life at this time. Kasi it's really a paradox, na especially for this age group where this is the time when they are supposed to be going out and meeting friends and shaping an identity that is rooted but is now growing separately from the family. But so I think it calls for a creative solution. No,
Mhm,
na how can that need to socialize and build identity be fulfilled in a situation where physical distancing or limited social contact is the norm. This is now the norm, and it's going to be
mhm,
the norm for an extended period of time.
mhm. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we have yet to see kung ano yung magiging result nito in the future. Pero sinasabi
Mm-mm.
ng mga some literature ngayon that it might really compromise. Pag nagpatuloy pa ito, no, further, we don't know
Mm-mm.
when this pandemic
Yes.
will end. So, very
Yes.
uncertain ang panahon. So, um, pag nagpatuloy pa ito, then definitely the development of children and teenagers will be continuously compromised. So we have
Are
yet to
there
see.
yet
Mm-mm,
to see? Oo, so you're
mm-mm,
observing. But are there now ongoing studies either in the Philippines or in other countries, especially for child and adolescent psychiatry
mm-mm,
groups like PISCAP?
mm-mm,
Are there ongoing studies so na tinatrack natin? Siguro it's going to be a cohort longitudinal study ng
mm-mm,
mga kabataan na lumaki at this point of the pandemic.
mm-mm. Like a few months ago, Peace Cup met, some members of the Peace Cup met and gustong gumawa ng study on the effect of online education on children.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing work right now. And we will be once it's available, then we will be able to share that with everyone.
Yes. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a very good initiative from the
Mm-hmm.
child and adolescent psychiatrists in the Philippines, no? Especially because this is unprecedented, and
Yeah.
it while it is a long haul in terms of challenges, you also told me that it's also a good time for opportunities, and we have to look at what we can learn. It's a learning moment for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
No, now
This
that we're here.
mm-mm. This pandemic is really teaching us a lot of things. Di,
Yeah.
di ba, Dr. Liu? Mm-mm.
Oo nga, eh. So,
Oo.
siguro, papag-usapan din natin 'yan. Anong anong natutunan natin? Anong tinuro sa'tin nitong pandemic na 'to? I'm not sure lang if there are questions. I'm not sure if, there was one question earlier, but I'm not sure if there's more. Oh, there's one here. Teachers are also overwhelmed with this remote learning condition, especially those who are also assigned with administrative posts.
Mhm.
That's very true. I truly commiserate. Pero as Rhea was saying, Doc Rhea was saying earlier, it's like we're taking a
Mhm.
journey without a map. We're sailing a ship without a
Yeah, we are
compass.
navigating without a map. But yes, teachers are also now in focus, no? Like
Yeah.
there are recent webinars that have focused naman on the teachers, and
Mm-mm.
we are paying attention now to our teachers. But there was not really enough preparation for online classes for both
Mm-mm.
teachers and the
Mm-mm.
students. But there are studies or yeah, that show that there is parallelism on the mental health
Mm-mm.
of teachers and the students. And you know, and students didn't really adapt easily despite being exposed to technology, di ba, Dr. Lu?
Oo,
Nahirapan pa rin sila sa sistema ng
nahirapan.
online learning, and more so with the teachers, and we get um, similar high levels of stress among teachers and students in adapting to online learning.
Mhm.
Yeah. So intervention for napag-usapan din in the recent webinars that it's important to give uh, a lesson plan for teachers and this time for their mental health. And
Oo.
let me give some ano dito. Yeah, some tips, no? There are some tips for our
Yan, tips
teachers
sa mga
on
teachers na nakikinig
how,
sa'tin.
oo, it's important that we help develop mental health plan for teachers, no, and to
Yes.
facilitate mental health promotion, training, and wellness program in building resilience in teachers, such as staying connected is one,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
also self-care and balance is also one of the
Mhm.
tips that we can give to our teachers, and don't, for all of us, not only teachers but students and all of us, yung let us not resist change, no, because we are all in this together nga, and let us not resist change, and let us set realistic goals, and let us also learn to discover ourselves, take care of our mind, take care of our body, try to be positive and feed our minds with positive thoughts and inspiring thoughts, and
Mm.
we all should adapt to changes that are happening now.
Mm. Um, pero I have a deep appreciation of that feeling of distress on the part of the teachers. We're working with the Bangsamoro Ministry of Education, and
Mhm.
the teachers there have actually asked for stress management, inputs on
Mhm.
sleep,
Mhm.
and sleep hygiene. So, um, the stress is shared by everyone, no,
Mhm.
and so while we're focusing on the tweens and the teens, the questions that are coming up are coming from the teachers and the parents.
Mhm.
There's a parent who asked the question, how would I know if my how can we tell if our teen is depressed? So,
Mhm.
what are the
So,
signs that parents should look for?
mhm.
Doc Rhea?
Okay. Yes, there are signs to look for in our children or teens um, for depression. Una, yung simpleng sa school pa lang, no, yung pagkakaroon ng poor performance in school is one of the signs na our child or student is might be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yung mga dating kinahihiligan niyang gawin na leisure activities ay biglang wala na siyang ganang gawin. Yung dating masayahing bata o mabait na bata, biglang nagiging magagalitin, nagiging palaaway, mainit ang ulo, nagkakaroon ng changes sa sleep pattern and eating pattern, ano pa, uh, yung mga ganon, no? o kaya sometimes biglang ayaw nila makipag-usap sa family, no, and they isolate themselves. So these
Mm.
are warning signs of depression, or signs to look for in children para sa depression. So, mahalaga ding malaman ng ating mga parents or teachers na remember that ang mga bata natin are not yet sophisticated or very competent with their vocabulary to express how they feel. No?
Mm.
So it's important that we keep an open communication with our children and teens. Kumustahin sila? Kumusta bang
Mm.
araw mo? Kamusta ka? And try to keep an open communication because, you know, our children would always love us, the parents and adults, to approach them. Kahit minsan, tingin mo sa kanila parang ayaw kang kausapin, no? O parang um,
Mm.
may mga mainit ang ulo o mga ganon. O biglang yung masayahing bata, biglang nagiging iyakin, you know.
Mm.
So,
Walang
unlike,
kibo.
so, uh, in sa pag-determine ng depression sa mga bata, may kaunting pagkakaiba sa mga adults. Kasi sa mga adults,
Yes.
kitang-kita mo kaagad, makikita mo yung kanilang changes in the behavior and in their mood, na
Yeah.
nagkakaroon sila ng depression. But in children and adolescents, because hindi pa nga sila sophisticated in articulating how they feel and what they think, you know, minsan nagiging physical ang manifestation. And so,
So
yun,
behavior and
behavior. So,
behavior
kapag na
change.
kapag na oobserbahan na natin yon ng mga magulang o mga uh, kasama niyang mga adults, yun, those are baka merong depression, nagkakaroon ng depression ng isang
So,
bata.
siguro ifo-follow up ko lang yung question na yon. So, if they're noticing all of those changes, kunwari masayahin, ta's ngayon nagiging masungit o walang kibo, will you advise that the parents bring it up to the child and ask the child about it or the teenager about it? And if you say yes, ay what is the best technique to ask that question? Kasi hindi naman siguro okay na, "Anak, depressed ka ba?"
Mm-mm. Yeah. Yes,
Ano ang
it's always
maayos na
important. Mm-mm. It's
hmm,
always important to bring it up with our children kung may napapansin tayong pagbabago. But the approach,
okey.
of course, is pag makipag-usap tayo sa mga bata, sa mga anak,
Mm,
we have to always be, yung approach natin should be comforting and welcoming, no? And
mm.
not yung magle-lecture ka kaagad sa kanila, you know. Ang kasabihan nga natin, we have to connect first before we correct, no? Connect first
Connect
before we
connect
uh,
before you
you
correct.
correct.
Oh, that's
Mm-mm.
nice.
And important also that we don't minimize or dismiss what they say or what they feel, no?
Mhm,
Be
mhm,
prepared to listen to them. And if you think na hindi gustong mag-open sa'yo ng bata, talagang ayaw, kahit
mm,
gamitan mo ng magandang approach, then you could
mm,
probably recommend or bring them to or yung favorite teacher nila para kausapin siya, or a guidance
mm,
counselor, or to a mental
mm,
health professional kung talagang kailangan. And if you think that the problem is too big for you to handle, no,
mm.
and don't hesitate to get help, no,
Yes,
from a
yes,
mental health professional. Mm-hmm.
mm. And, it sometimes for teenagers especially, they will always say no, 'di ba? Kunwari,
Mm-hmm.
'pag tinanong mo, "Anak, may problema ba?" "Wala."
Mm-hmm.
"Okey ka ba?" "Okey." Pero, if you're noticing behavior changes in your teenager, it is worth a conversation.
Oh, definitely.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's worth a conversation. And probably the strategy will be that to own our feelings, no, na we are noticing or we are worried about something that we're noticing na
Mm-hmm.
may mga nagbabago. Kasi
Mm-mm.
it's an indication to the teenager that we are ready to talk about whatever it
Mm-mm.
is that's
Mm-mm.
bothering them. Pero
Oo.
dapat non-judgmental. That's what you're saying by
Non-judgmental.
connect before you
For you
correct, di
correct.
ba?
Yes. And
So,
also
hindi
as
agad.
parents, yeah.
Mm. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, as parents we should also be aware kung ano kaya ang sources of conflict na nangyayari dito sa batang ito. Bakit ayaw niyang makipag-usap sa akin? Because
Mm-mm.
sometimes ang parents din ang nagiging source of conflict ng mga issues ng mga kabataan. Kaya minsan ayaw nilang
Oo.
makipag-usap. Sabi nga natin, minsan parents are not the easiest people to talk to. Minsan ganun
Most of
ang
the time, I
yeah.
think.
So, may ganong minsang nararamdaman o iniisip ang mga bata, no? And sometimes
Mm-mm.
we should also be aware as parents sa ating mga personal issues.
Aha.
Baka our personal issues are being transferred to them at
Yeah.
yeah, at yun pala ang tayo pala, hindi natin alam tayo pala ang nagiging source of conflict sa bata that causing the anxieties and depression and some, 'di ba? Mm-mm.
Yeah. So siguro yung consciousness din ng adults in the family, no? So
Mm-mm.
mamaya papag-usapan pa natin yung if there are conflicts at home. There's another question here about if tweens and teens say that they are mentally unwell. Does that
Mm-mm.
automatically mean that they have mental illness already?
Mm-mm. Not necessarily, because
Mm.
remember when we give a diagnostic impression of whether this is
Mm-mm.
anxiety or depression, it has to be a constellation of many symptoms and not just one. So
Okay.
minsan, pag meron tayong mga nakikitang mga symptoms na paisa-isa lang naman and not really fulfilling the criteria of a diagnostic impression, then hindi naman natin gustong pathologize kaagad ang bigyan kaagad ng diagnosis ang mga bata. Tingnan mo muna, obserbahan mo, tingnan mo muna ano kaya ang nagiging sanhi ng reaksyon o behavior ng mga batang ito, bakit nagkakaganito. At baka naman you
Mm.
need to do some adjustment lang in the environment na kinaroroonan niya o baka tayo, kailangan lang tayo mag-adjust din, baka tayo ang nagiging sanhi ng mga reaction nila.
Mm.
Meron din tinatawag na ngayon, 'di ba, yung word na languishing. Um,
Oo.
oo. It's this, 'di ba, sinasabi natin na it's the state of parang being unwell. Parang depressed pero hindi.
Pero hindi.
But I'm not really mentally okay. Oo,
Yeah.
may gano'n. But not necessarily na may ano kaagad, diagnosis.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if just to follow up on that question, so if for example a tween or a teen says she's not he or she is not feeling too psychologically or emotionally well, what should teachers or parents do? I mean, what should they how do they pick up from that conversation?
Mhm. Then yeah, then that's the time na ah, offer yung mga dapat judicious din ang ating pagbibigay schedule sa mga bata. So
Mm,
offer siguro mga time for mini breaks for these children to have fun or to have this quality time of or conversation with the family, parang play time
mm,
for them. So that
mm,
feeling of yung languishing ay medyo matulungan namang mawala, you know.
mm,
So the key
mm,
pa rin here is the communication and
mm.
Um,
Okay.
taking mini breaks para um, may pagpatuloy mo naman yung dati mong routine because loss of routine can also cause anxiety in us, no, and even to students. So ganun pa
Okay.
rin, it will still boil down into opening communication with them and tanungin kumusta ka ba and nandito ako, I will be here prepared to listen to you. I
Mm,
may not know what is happening to you pero nandito lang ako to listen. Yung mga ganong
mm,
approach would help them deal with the difficulties they are
mm.
going through. Mm.
Would you advise families to go out? I mean, go out as a family. Take, as you said, mini breaks, but also take holidays or vacations outside the
Yeah,
home together.
for as long as it is safe, yes. And for as long as they
Okay.
would properly observe the safety measures, safety protocols, then that would be good.
Mm-mm.
It's the
I guess
judgment
that's
of the
also
parents, oo,
the
kung saan
parents,
nila,
yeah.
kung hanggang saang extent sila pupunta at makakarating. Mm-mm.
So, siguro for the teenagers, pwede na silang i-engage in setting the rules for themselves, 'di ba? Kunwari nagpapaalam na lalabas kasama yung mga kaibigan, usually they will go out and, maybe have a meal,
Mm-mm.
'no?
Mm-mm.
If the rules are clear about how they can take care of themselves, and the parents have a role of helping them
Mm-mm.
clarify what those rules are, then
Mm-mm.
siguro pwede naman, no?
Mm. Sabi nga ng Philippine Pediatric Society, kasi natanong din sila diyan because pinapayagan na nga
Oo.
ngayon ang mga kabataan
Mm.
na lumabas na with the families. At kung
Mm.
makita mo ang malls ngayon, naku, punong-puno ng mga bata, no? But
Parang
yun nga,
walang pandemic.
oo. Ang sabi ng Philippine Pediatric Society is for as long as you will observe the proper safety protocols, then pwede naman.
Yeah, so I think it's
Mhm.
very important to emphasize that, no, especially to the teachers and the parents,
Mm,
na the safety protocols are here to stay, even if the
mhm,
vaccination rates, for example, go any higher or increase further in coverage. Kasi ang target for most countries is 90%, pero ang layo pa ng
mhm,
Pilipinas dun sa
talaga.
90% na yon.
Malayo pa.
So if we look at it from that perspective, the community is not yet safe in terms of
Mhm,
COVID. And
yes.
so the next line of defense, if you're not yet vaccinated, will be to practice social
Mm,
distancing or hand washing, wear
mm,
a mask
mm.
in public
Sabi nga,
places, you
yeah,
know.
sabi nga in all the lectures that we attend about this
Mm-mm.
COVID, that's the only thing that we can do. Observe
It
and protect
yes,
ourselves. Observe
protect
the
ourselves.
protect ourselves. That's the only thing that's the
That's
best
a
thing that we can do right
that's the
now.
best thing
Mm-mm,
that we can do. And then
mm-mm,
avoid places where you can be in crowds, which is I think quite difficult if you live in Metro Manila, no? Kasi
mm-mm,
konti ang open spaces na pwedeng mag-hangout
mm-mm.
ang mga bata.
Mm. At sabi nga nila, because part of our culture na nga yung lumalabas as
Mm.
family,
Mm.
hindi mapigilan.
Oo nga
Oo,
So
medyo
people are
mahirap
taking the
mapigilan.
risk anyway.
Mhm, mm,
Okay. So for the siguro last na point na lang na gusto kong i-address in terms of the cognitive overload and teachers. Um, is it also possible for the teachers to actually note if the students that they're handling are becoming mentally unwell? What would be the things that they would also pay attention to or be aware of
mm.
to
Because we are
identify the mentally
oo,
unwell ones?
because we are online, nasa online classes tayo ngayon. It would
Yeah.
isa yan sa challenge. Compared to face, mas mahirap sa mga teachers ngayon ang ma-identify who among their
Mm.
students are displaying some behavior problems, no? Kasi nga hindi nila nakikita face to
Mm.
face. So,
Mhm.
isa yun sa nagiging challenge ngayon. But with the online schooling right now, sometimes yung frequent absences ng bata can also be a
Okay.
sign na nagmi-miss ng mga online classes o kaya
Mm.
naka-on and then turning off the camera at di naman talaga nagpa-participate would be some signs. And
Mm.
yung kanilang mga performances in the exams, if they are consistently getting low or pumapasok sa online classes na nagiging late o hindi
Mm.
nakakasubmit ng requirements, So with the online schooling right now, those could be some signs na
Yeah.
pwedeng makita ng mga teachers. But then again, the best venue for that is yung face-to-face schooling or sa face-to-face classroom yun nakikita.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So the other aspect about this particular stage is their development in terms of sexual identity, diba?
Mhm.
And building intimate relationships, especially the ones in senior high school,
Mhm.
no, yung
Mhm.
mga 16 to 18.
Mhm.
Um, is that an issue now among the teenagers?
Mhm. Yes, because among the teenagers, because of the restrictions, yun nga,
Mm-mm.
sinasabi natin na ang nangyayari, relationships nga are missed. Relationships are
Ah,
missed, nagkakaroon ng problem with relationship connection nila sa bawat isa. And so the relationships ng mga teenagers, boyfriend or
oh,
girlfriend,
boyfriend, girlfriend.
nagiging fragile din, no? So
Mm.
isa 'yun sa nagiging epekto rin ngayon. So, yun yung
So,
nating naobserbahan,
nacha-challenge.
nacha-challenge siya.
Nacha-challenge ang
Mm,
relationships
mhm,
nila,
mhm,
okay. Hindi ko lang alam kung nakikita pa sa clinical setting ang results ng mga fragile relationships na 'to at saka breakup. Nakikita ba
yes,
ng mga
mm,
child and adolescent
yeah.
psychiatrist 'to, and how is it manifesting clinically?
Minsan they would come to you, ang chief complaint is depression, and if you will, explore on the reason why, and yun nga nagkaroon ng, breakup sa boyfriend or girlfriend, and it's because hindi sila allowed to go out o kaya,
Mm,
um, hindi sila mag I mean yung virtual communication is not enough for them. And so
mm,
nagkakaroon, um, yun yan, nagde-deteriorate, nagdi-drift yung kanilang relationship. And so we see that
mm.
in the clinics as one of the issues that being um, brought about bakit sila pumupunta for consultation.
How can the teenagers cope with that now? I mean,
Mhm.
kasi siyempre lahat naman tayo nagdaan sa pagiging teenager, no?
Mhm.
At alam natin ano yung meron kang boyfriend, meron kang girlfriend, o meron kang crush, 'di ba? Gusto mong makita, gusto mong makausap, pero hindi mo magawa.
Mm.
So,
Nasa-set
how is
na
there
yeah.
hmm,
Well, I don't really have a good
yes,
answer
Rhea?
to that. I don't really have a good answer to that. Talagang ano 'yun, mase-set aside muna siguro sa panahong iyon ngayon. But, still, yeah, the use of ano, social media, yun muna ang ginagawang, paraan para mag-communicate o
Oo,
magkakilala, oo,
oo.
magkita, oo. So yun muna siguro yun talaga, for these children right now.
Alam mo,
Mm,
that's a very interesting point, no? Kasi nakita naman natin how relationships have evolved when social media became a reality. Nung bata naman tayo, walang social media, 'di ba?
mhm.
But we were
Sa
able to navigate
mhm,
relationships.
mhm.
Ngayon,
You know,
merong
Doctor
social media,
yeah. Doctor
nagkaroon ng
Lou,
pandemic. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, go.
sabi nga, yung mental health crisis in children lumutang yan nung mga around 2013 eh. So that's
Yeah,
7 years before the pandemic. And
before the pandemic.
yes, and according to the WHO, mga ang
Mm-mm.
taas ng percentage, no? Yung mga around 60 to 70% of children have mental
Mhm.
health conditions and
Yes.
suffering from depression, and the most commonly nakita ito sa mga ages 15 to 24 years old according sa
Yes.
estimate ng WHO.
Mm.
And saan kaya nanggagaling din daw yung depression? And sabi nila, since 2013 and ngayon up to this time. And sabi nila, the problem came in simula nung nagkaroon yung involvement sa technology. you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
because it's been a global scene right now. It's a global scene right now that there is less and less eye contact. People are
Right,
not
right.
communicating anymore with each other. Lahat nakatutok sa gadgets, sa devices. Families are not even talking with each other during dinner. Lahat nakatutok sa social media. Um, so yun, no? Parang sinasabi rin sa mga pag-aaral na naging malaking source of or ng mga depression and anxiety yung uh, engagement ng mga bata sa social media. Another is that the social media has become the agent of envy among people or among these children.
Oh.
Naging agent of envy siya. And so, kaya isa pa rin yung nagiging cause ng high cases of depression and anxiety among the young. Which is true. Uh, Yun nga ang naging problem natin pre-pandemic. But now, we don't have any choice but to really, ano muna medyo dependent tayo on the technology right now. Kaya nga,
Yeah.
so anong stand ngayon? So it's not how long you spend time with your device, but it's the purpose of why you use it.
Okay, so how you're
Mhm,
using the device. Okay. And so the teenagers, going back to the issue of the relationships, parang ano to, no, the lost years, kumbaga, kasi they will continue to age or grow up,
mhm,
but they will not be able to do the usual activities they thought they would have been capable of doing prior, 'di ba,
mhm,
before the pandemic. So it's really a very tricky time, and I think if we look at it, um napakahalaga talaga ng role na kailangang gampanan ng parents at saka ng teachers, 'no, in taking care of this particular age group, the tweens and the teens. Kasi it's a very confusing time. The tweens, especially your 9 to 12, you're not a child, you're not a teenager. You have certain things that you can do on your own, but they aren't very many. You're thinking, pag naging teenager ako, mas madami na akong liberties, and then suddenly things change again. So really the adjustment is going to come from the whole family
mhm.
and the whole society. So talagang ngayon childcare, the onus of childcare is really on the whole community, the whole
Yes.
village. It's sabi nga nila, it takes a village, 'di ba?
Mhm, mhm.
To take care of a
Correct.
child,
Child.
no? Pero ngayon lalong na-emphasize 'yon kasi yung village na 'yon virtual pa at this
Mhm.
point in time.
Virtual. Yes.
Yeah. So siguro just to close the discussion, Rhea, kasi yeah, we're been going for a little over an hour now, and I don't want to keep you and the audience online for too long because it's a Sunday, so siguro may mga activities ang mga families. I just want you to siguro highlight certain things about the use of creativity and the role of art and music, which is really in the concept of Carl Jung. My favorite
Mhm,
psychiatrist is Carl
mhm.
Carl Jung. In his
Yeah.
concept, 'di ba? Part of surviving life or living life is really what he calls soulful living. And soulful
Mhm.
living has to do with being able to observe the beauty around us. Kasama doon
That's
ng
true.
art.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
so because you're a very creative person and you're such a sup- uh, an aficionado of art, painting, music, and film, are there things that families can actually do to connect to that soulful, creative side of each of the family members?
Mhm.
I mean,
Siguro
without
mamaya,
breaking the budget or without,
yeah. Alam,
going out
mm,
of the house and encountering
that's
COVID
right.
infection, mga
That's
ganon.
right. Alam mo, Dr. Do, siguro gusto kong banggitin dito na in PSCAP,
Mm.
no, we have now what we call yung kulay sa buhay, which is creative healing for mental health and self-enrichment of the Philippine Society for Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, wherein we promote art, creative arts for to help healing ng mental health natin. And recently we did activities on Larawan,
Mm.
therapeutic photography for mental health, and also Ikebana, the floral art for mental health. And coming up soon next week is Pinta, which is painting for mental health and well-being. Tama yung sinabi mo kanina, Dr. Doom. Hindi natin kailangan nga actually, hindi naman lumabas ng bahay para lang maging creative, para tayo ay makagawa ng ating mga, para matulungan natin ang ating mga sarili for um, sa mental health natin and well-being,
Mm.
no?
Mm.
Um, should I discuss that? Like for example, I would like to take as an example yung larawan, which is therapeutic photography for mental health, no? Siguro ano ko lang ito. Um, So ano ba ang naging ano namin, yung activity, itong activity namin is we are coming up actually with the Portraits of the Pandemic Coffee Table book as an output of this larawan workshop. Wherein ang naging
Mm.
activity guide namin is to to shoot subjects related to that theme at hindi mo kailangan lumabas ng bahay, no? And the activity guide will ay na ginawa namin is to shoot anything around you that gave you comfort during the pandemic, no?
Mm.
Okay? Maari itong tao o emosyon o damdamin, sceneries, o bagay, living or non-living things na nasa iyong paligid lang na nagkaroon ng tatak sa iyo ngayon during the pandemic. And ano ba yung mga bagay na pumasok sa isip mo during the pandemic? Pwede mo itong balikan at kunan ng larawan, no? And then, ano ang mga bagay na nagkaroon ng halaga at tatak sa iyo sa pandemyang ito? So, this is just an example of what you can do as a family. Creative art, creative healing, therapeutic
Mm.
photography. You know, photography is poetry without words, eh, no?
That's
So,
nice.
um, so sa photography maka-capture mo kung ano yung gusto mong iparating na message, how you
Mm-hmm.
want your world to be, depending on what you capture on camera, no?
Mm-hmm.
So, in that way, that can be therapeutic. And it can also be meditative for the one taking the photo because you focus. Kahit painting man yan eh. Painting, photography, music, it can be meditative for us, no? You focus on the
That's
art.
right.
So, because you focus on the art, nawawala ka sa mundo na nagbibigay sa iyo ng overwhelming stress and anxiety. And also,
Mm-hmm.
pwede as a family activity, pwedeng gawin ng family itong larawan, yung therapeutic photography for mental health. Um, yung aming facilitator no nag-present ng 30-day challenge, no?
30-day
30-day
challenge.
Oo, 30-day challenge every day for 30 days. Take a photo
Oo.
of a certain subject. Merong mga guidelines doon eh. And then subject that are related to how you feel and yung mga bagay na katulad ng mga guidelines na sinabi ko kanina, nagbigay tatak sa iyo o naging ano to, naging mahalaga sa iyo during the pandemic. You can do that 30 and then make an album out of it, 'di ba, as a family.
Okay, so it's ano, a creative and at the same time reflective
Yes.
process.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So yeah, I guess if there are no more questions, we will thank Dr. Rhea Concepcion and also invite everyone. If there are still teachers and parents listening to us or watching this podcast, to write post in the chat box topics in the future that you'd like us to talk about? Kasi alam ko majority ng topics na napag-usapan namin laging bitin. So if you have more questions or topics that you'd like this podcast to pick up, no? I think ang isa sa mga upcoming will be dealing with long distance relationships. Kasi ngayon lahat ng relationship long distance eh.
Mhm.
No, pero
Right.
itong aspect of creativity is also siguro something that we can talk about in the future.
And in the
So,
future, if we have in the future, if we have activities on creativity, I will be sharing with you, Dr. Lu, and your group,
oh yes,
so that yeah, you can
definitely.
share with your partners and our audience as
Yes.
well. Mhm.
Definitely. And Dr. Rhea Concepcion is a child and adolescent psychiatrist with the Mind Care Club. So if there are questions or consultations that you'd like to do online, you'd be able to find her through Mind Care Club. You'll be able to find us on Facebook, Instagram, and then this podcast is also going to be on YouTube and eventually on Spotify. So thank you very much, Rhea.
Thank you
Maraming
very
maraming
much. It's
salamat for
an
sharing your
honor to be
time.
invited and be sharing the screen with you, Dr. Lu. Thank you very
It
much.
is my pleasure and my honor.
Thank you
Okay,
very
so
much.
maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga nakinig at nanood sa atin. Hindi namin siguro nasagot lahat ng questions, pero we'll try to pick them up in the future episodes of the Mind Care Podcast, Conversations with Dr. Lou and Friends. So thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye to everyone. Stay safe, Dr. Lu.
Ikaw din. Bye.
Bye.